Why does he always come back the moment you start to move on? Why does he suddenly reappear when your heart finally begins to heal, when you started building your strength, when you've begun to remember who you really are? It feels like a cruel game, doesn't it? The silence is broken just as you've learned how to breathe without him, and there he is again, knocking on the door of your peace, testing the walls of the life you're rebuilding. And in that moment, confusion takes over. You start to wonder if it's love, if it's fate, or if it's just another cycle designed to keep you stuck. But let's be honest, deep down, you already know the answer. Men come back because they feel the shift. They sense the energy you've reclaimed. They notice when you're no longer chasing, no longer begging, no longer bending. There's something magnetic about the moment you choose yourself. Something powerful about the way your soul rises when you finally let go of waiting for someone else to complete you. That's when they remember. That's when they feel the emptiness of losing someone who gave without limits. And suddenly, they come running back. Not because they've changed, but because they crave the feeling you once gave so freely. You need to hear this. It's not about him. It's about you. It's about the light you carry that he couldn't replace anywhere else. It's about the strength you built while he was gone. It's about the truth that you are the prize, and when you start to realize it, the world reacts. That pull you feel when he returns isn't proof of love. It's proof of your power. It's proof that you were never lacking. It's proof that your worth shines brightest when you stand on your own. So let me ask you something even deeper. Why would you let someone who broke you have the privilege of holding your healed self? Why would you allow someone who couldn't see your value before to step into the life you've rebuilt with your own hands? You are not a backup plan. You are not an option waiting to be picked again. You are the chapter he can't rewrite, the lesson he can't unlearn, the memory he can't erase. That is why men always come back, not because they are ready to love you the way you deserve, but because they finally realize what they lost. And here's the gift, hidden in that painful pattern. You don't have to let it control you anymore. You don't have to be pulled back into a cycle that only delays your growth. You can choose to see his return as confirmation of your power, not validation of his love. You can choose to stand taller, to stay grounded, to let his presence remind you of everything you've overcome. Stay with me, because the deeper we go, the stronger you will feel. By the end of this, you won't just understand why men always come back. You'll understand why you no longer need them to. You'll walk away not with bitterness, but with clarity, with fire in your soul, and with the unshakable belief that your life is too precious to be recycled by someone who couldn't see your worth the first time. The real question isn't why he comes back. The real question is why you feel pulled to open the door when he does. That's where the power struggle lives, not in his actions, but in your response. Every time he returns, a part of you wonders if maybe this time will be different, if maybe he has finally grown, if maybe he has finally recognized what you're worth. And that small hope, that flicker of possibility, is what keeps so many trapped in the same cycle. It's not him holding you there. It's the weight of your own longing for closure, for validation, for a love that should have been given the first time. But here's the truth that breaks that cycle wide open. People rarely change when the reason for their change is comfort. They come back not because they are transformed, but because they remember the ease of being loved by you. They remember the safety you gave, the care you poured, the way you made them feel more alive. That's not love on their part. That's hunger. Hunger for something they no longer have access to. Hunger for the warmth of your energy, not the responsibility of your heart. And when you see it clearly, when you strip away the illusion, you realize he isn't offering a new future. He's only asking to relive the past. You deserve more than recycled promises. You deserve more than someone who only notices your value when it's gone. The greatest shift happens when you stop asking why he comes back and start asking why you would ever take less than what you truly need. Because the moment you stop feeding on crumbs, you stop living in starvation. The moment you stop accepting half love, you open space for real love to arrive. And it will arrive because the energy you project becomes the standard you attract. Imagine how powerful you become when you no longer let someone else's return dictate your worth. Imagine the freedom of knowing that his reappearance isn't a compliment, but a confirmation that you've grown stronger than his absence. When he comes back, it's not a sign to take him in. It's a reminder of the person you outgrew. It's life testing you, asking if you're ready to step into the higher version of yourself. or if you'll fall back into the comfort of what once broke you. You are not here to be recycled. You are here to rise. Every time you choose yourself over the temptation of going backwards, you rewire your mind, you rebuild your strength, and you raise your standards. That choice creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. The moment you realize that his return is not about love, but about the pull of your light, everything changes. You stop being confused, you stop feeling weak, and you start standing in the truth that you are the one with the power. Stay with that energy, hold it tight, because the deeper you embrace it, the less you'll need someone to come back to feel validated. You'll see clearly that you are already whole, already powerful, already deserving of the kind of love that doesn't need to leave to recognize your worth. That's when everything inside you begins to shift, and that shift is where your freedom begins. The moment you understand that you hold the power, everything changes. No one can make you question your value unless you hand them the permission to do so. That's why his return feels heavy, because it isn't really about him. It's about the part of you that still doubts if you're enough. It's about the shadow of insecurity that whispers, maybe this is your last chance at love. Maybe no one else will show up. Maybe this is as good as it gets. That voice is not truth. That voice is fear. And fear is the exact reason so many go back to what already broke them. Fear convinces you to settle. Fear tells you to choose the familiar over the unknown. Fear disguises itself as comfort, even when that comfort is toxic. But freedom begins the moment you decide not to let fear choose for you. Freedom begins when you remind yourself that being alone is not a punishment. It's preparation. It's a sacred space where you build the kind of strength that no one can take away. It's where you learn to fall in love with your own reflection, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And when you step into that truth, when you embody that power, no man can shake you by simply showing up again. Think about it. If you keep letting the same energy return and take root, how can your life ever change? Growth requires standards. Transformation demands boundaries. The world reflects what you tolerate. And when you no longer tolerate being half-loved, you send a message louder than words. I am not for rent. I am not for trial. I am not temporary. That clarity doesn't just repel the wrong people. It attracts the right ones. The kind who don't leave just to remember your worth. The kind who know your value before they ever risk losing it. This is where your courage is tested. Because it's easy to confuse loneliness with emptiness. But loneliness is just a signal, not a sentence. It's a call to build a life so fulfilling, so rich with self-respect, self-love, and purpose that no person's departure can collapse it. You have the choice right now. Either let his return drag you back into the same story, or let it be the spark that ignites a brand new chapter where you finally refuse to compromise on what your soul deserves. Every time you say no to the past, you say yes to the future. Every time you close the door on someone who could not honor you, you open the door to the love you've been waiting for. This isn't about bitterness. It's not about proving him wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Proving that you are always enough. Proving that you don't have to chase what is already yours by nature. Respect, love, peace, freedom. So let his return be a reminder, not a temptation. Let it remind you of how far you've come, how strong you've become, how deeply you now know your worth. Let it remind you that you are no longer someone who needs validation from the same person who once broke you. You are more than that now. You are powerful enough to choose differently. And that choice again and again is what builds the unshakable life you deserve. The cycle only breaks when you finally decide that your peace is worth more than his presence. Until that moment, you will keep repeating the same lesson, feeling the same pain, and questioning the same things. But when you draw that line inside yourself, everything shifts. You no longer measure your value by who chooses to return. You measure it by how fiercely you protect your energy, how boldly you honor your heart, and how unapologetically you demand the love you deserve. That is the turning point most never reach. Because it requires courage to walk away not just from him, but from the old version of yourself that tolerated less. It's tempting to believe that history holds answers, that if you go back, you'll finally find the closure you wanted. But closure doesn't come from someone else. Closure comes when you decide the story is over. Closure is not about his apology or his recognition. Closure is the moment you stop needing it. Because the truth is, waiting for someone to explain why they hurt you is just another way of giving them power over your healing. The second you stop waiting, The second you stop needing their words to move forward is the second you take your life back fully. And isn't that what you want? To live without being haunted by someone else's choices? To breathe without feeling the weight of their absence? To walk into your future without dragging the baggage of what never truly honored you? That freedom is not a dream. It's available the moment you choose it. The only thing standing between you and that freedom is the belief that you still need something from the past. Once you release that illusion, the chains fall, the cycle ends. The power is yours again. The reason men always come back is because they expect the door to still be open. They assume your heart will always remain available, no matter how many times they leave. And if you're honest, maybe that door has stayed cracked in the past. But this time is different. This time you see clearly. This time you understand that love without respect is not love. This time you understand that consistency matters more than apologies. This time you understand that you can't build a future by recycling the past. So let this be the moment you change the pattern forever. Let this be the moment you step into your own authority and declare that your life will not be paused for someone else's indecision. Because you deserve more than halfway. You deserve more than temporary affection. You deserve a love that shows up and stays, and until that love arrives, you deserve to give it to yourself. There is nothing more powerful than a person who realizes they don't need anyone else to validate them. That is where real attraction is born. That is where real confidence lives. That is the energy that makes people chase you, respect you, and rise to meet your standards. And when you reach that place, no return from the past will have the power to shake you. It will only remind you that you are free, and that freedom is the greatest victory you could ever hold. Strength is not built in the moments when everything is easy. Strength is built in the moments when you are tempted to go back, when the familiar calls your name, when your heart aches for what it once knew, and yet you still choose yourself. That is where transformation begins, in the quiet decision to value your peace over your past, your growth over your comfort, your future over your fear. Every time you resist the urge to reopen that door, you prove to yourself that you are no longer the person who once needed crumbs to feel full. You are becoming someone who demands the feast of real love, real respect, real devotion. It takes discipline to hold that standard. It takes courage to sit in the space between letting go and receiving better. But that space is sacred. That space is where you meet yourself on the deepest level. That space is where you stop running from loneliness and start running toward wholeness. And when you embrace that process, you stop chasing people who cannot stay, and you start attracting people who refuse to leave. Because the energy of a person who knows their worth is magnetic, undeniable, unshakable. Think about what happens when you finally decide you will not settle. The world has no choice but to adjust around you. The wrong ones will fall away. The right ones will step up. The patterns that once controlled you will collapse because they no longer have a place to land. You become a force, a standard, a mirror of what true self-love looks like. And from that place, his return doesn't shake you. It validates the growth you've achieved. It confirms what you already know, that you are rare, that you are powerful, that you are unforgettable. But here is where you must be ruthless with yourself. You cannot say you want transformation and still entertain the same cycles. You cannot say you want respect and still accept disrespect. You cannot say you want love and still allow half-hearted affection to occupy your space. Every choice either reinforces your old story or writes a new one. Which story are you choosing today? Which story do you want your future to reflect? The truth is, your energy is too expensive to keep investing in someone who cannot afford it. Your heart is too valuable to keep offering to someone who doesn't know how to hold it. Your time is too precious to waste on someone who only shows up when they feel the emptiness of your absence. You deserve more than to be someone's temporary relief. You deserve to be someone's forever choice, and that choice begins with you. The more you love yourself, the less willing you become to entertain anything that disrupts your peace. The more you respect yourself, the less available you become for anyone who can't match that respect. The more you honor yourself, the less tempted you are to let the past pull you back. That is the foundation of real freedom. That is the strength that cannot be shaken. That is the moment when you rise so high that no return, no apology, no temporary gesture could ever lure you down again. There is a reason your spirit feels heavy every time you entertain someone who has already shown you their true colors. It is because your soul knows you are betraying yourself. Deep inside, you know when you are settling, you know when you are shrinking, You know when you are silencing your own needs just to hold on to someone who has proven they cannot give you what you deserve. That inner conflict is the weight you carry, and it will never leave until you decide that you will no longer abandon yourself for the comfort of temporary affection. When you choose yourself, everything shifts. Self-respect becomes the filter through which every connection must pass. Boundaries stop being walls of defense and become gates of protection, keeping out what drains you and welcoming in what nourishes you. The love you crave begins with the way you love yourself. And that love is not soft or weak. It is fierce. It is bold. It is the voice that says, I will not allow myself to be diminished just to keep someone else comfortable. This is why men return when you finally step into that energy. They feel the change. They sense the shift in your vibration. They recognize that the access they once had to your heart is no longer available. That realization sparks their curiosity, their regret, their longing. But what you must understand is this: their return is not a reflection of their growth. It is a reflection of your power. And power without discipline will always be tested. The universe does not test you with weakness. It tests you with temptation. It asks, are you truly ready to rise, or will you slip back into the cycle you've already outgrown? The answer is written in your choices. Every time you say no to what hurt you, you say yes to what heals you. Every time you close the door to inconsistency, you open the door to loyalty. Every time you walk away from what feels heavy, you create space for what feels aligned. This is how you elevate, not by wishing for someone else to change, but by refusing to lower yourself to their level of love. And let's be clear, this isn't about becoming cold or guarded. It's about becoming clear. It's about choosing peace over chaos, truth over illusion, wholeness over half-love. When you finally understand that, you stop being afraid of someone leaving, and you start being afraid of betraying yourself again. That is the ultimate shift. That is where the endless cycle finally ends. So the next time he shows up, don't see it as fate, don't see it as destiny, don't see it as the universe giving you another chance. See it for what it is: a test of how much you've grown, a mirror of the strength you've built, a reminder of what you will never allow again. You have already proven that you can survive without him. Now it's time to prove that you can thrive without going back. That decision is where your freedom begins, and once you claim it, nothing and no one can take it away. The power you are searching for has been inside you all along. It has never been in his hands, never been in his choices, never been in his absence or his return. It has always lived in the way you choose to see yourself. The moment you decide that your value is not up for negotiation, you step into a new reality. A reality where no one's inconsistency has the ability to define your worth, where no rejection can reduce your light, where no return can shake the foundation you've built within. That is the level of self-ownership that breaks every cycle and creates an entirely new standard for your life. You must remind yourself that love is not supposed to hurt more than it heals. Love is not supposed to drain you. Love is not supposed to keep you guessing, doubting, or begging. Real love doesn't vanish and then reappear only when it feels convenient. Real love is steady. Real love is consistent. Real love is shown through action, not through disappearing acts that leave scars on your spirit. So when someone keeps leaving and coming back, it is not love. It is a pattern. And patterns only repeat until you decide you've learned enough from them. This is why self-respect is the highest form of love you can give yourself. Because when you honor who you are, you no longer accept less than what aligns with that truth. You stop waiting for someone else to finally give you what you deserve. And you start giving it to yourself. And the irony is, when you do that, when you raise your standards so high that you will no longer tolerate anything less, you become magnetic to people who are ready to love at that level. It's not about chasing anymore. It's not about convincing. It's about attracting what mirrors the way you already treat yourself. You may feel that part of you still aches for what's familiar. That small voice that asks, what if this time is different? That voice is natural, but it is not your guide. Your guide is the higher voice inside you, the one that knows your destiny is bigger than repeating a broken cycle. That voice calls you to rise, to choose yourself, to step into the love and life you truly deserve. That voice asks you to let go of what was so you can receive what will be. When you live from that higher voice, everything becomes clear. His return stops being an invitation and starts being a reflection of your growth. His presence no longer tempts you because you've tasted something better. The power of being free. Freedom from doubt, freedom from waiting, freedom from settling. That kind of freedom is priceless. And once you feel it, you will never trade it for a temporary thrill. So hold your ground. Stand tall in your truth. Remember that you are not here to be someone's cycle. You are here to be someone's choice, not someone's fallback, but someone's forever. And the moment you claim that truth without fear, the universe aligns to deliver it. Because the standard you set for yourself becomes the standard the world rises to meet. And that, right there, is the beginning of the love you've always been worthy of. When you finally decide to rise above the cycle, you begin to see clearly that love is not meant to confuse you. Love is not meant to come and go like a passing storm. Love is not meant to leave you empty, only to return when it needs to be filled again. That is not love. That is dependency. That is ego. That is the hunger of someone who has not learned to value what they once had. And the truth is, you cannot heal another person's blindness by dimming your own light. You cannot teach someone to cherish you by allowing them to come and go without consequence. Every time you let that happen, you reinforce the lesson that your boundaries are optional. But the moment you close that door firmly, you send a message not only to them, but to yourself. I am no longer available for half love. Your heart deserves consistency. Your soul deserves respect. Your life deserves a love that does not disappear just because it gets difficult. And the moment you stop entertaining the returns of someone who could not see your worth the first time, you create space for that kind of love to find you. It is not about punishing them. It is about protecting yourself, protecting your energy, your peace, your growth, protecting the version of you that has fought too hard to come this far. The reason cycles feel so heavy is because they are designed to keep you from evolving. They are loops of comfort disguised as love. They pull you back into old emotions, old wounds, old versions of yourself that you have already outgrown. And every time you give in, you pause your own progress. But when you choose to break free, when you choose to no longer repeat what has already broken you, you accelerate your growth. You rise faster. You attract better. You build a future that no longer carries the weight of the past. There will be moments when it feels tempting. Moments when the voice of doubt tells you to give it one more chance. Moments when the loneliness whispers that maybe going back is easier than standing strong. But strength is built in those exact moments. Every time you say no, you build resilience. Every time you refuse to settle, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the pull of the past. That is how you transform, not by waiting for someone else to change, but by changing the way you respond. Remember this, anyone can leave and come back. That takes no courage, no effort, no growth. True test of love is not in the return, it is in the consistency. It is in the daily choice to stay, to respect, to honor, to build. And if someone cannot offer you that, then their presence is nothing more than a distraction from the love that is waiting for you, the love that will not leave, the love that will not ask you to question your worth. So choose yourself with conviction, guard your peace with strength, and let his return be nothing more than proof of the light he could not hold, because your light was never meant to be borrowed. It was meant to shine fully, freely, and without apology in the life you are building. A life too powerful to ever be trapped in the same old cycle again. Every time you choose to close the door on someone who could not honor you, you are not losing love. You are gaining yourself. You are reclaiming the pieces of your soul that were scattered in the chaos of uncertainty. You are gathering back the strength that was drained by inconsistency. You are proving that you no longer need someone else's presence to validate your existence. That is not loss. That is liberation. And the more you embrace it, the more unshakable you become. It is easy to mistake attention for affection. It is easy to mistake longing for love. It is easy to mistake a return for redemption. But attention fades, longing is temporary, and a return without change is nothing more than repetition. You were not created to live in repetition. You were created to evolve, to expand, to rise into the highest version of yourself. And that version cannot be reached by circling the same lessons over and over again. At some point, you must decide that the lesson is learned, the door is closed, and your energy is moving forward, not backward. The truth is, when someone leaves and comes back, it often has little to do with love and everything to do with access. They remember how deeply you gave, how unconditionally you cared, how fully you showed up. They remember the comfort of being seen without having to rise to meet your needs. But that is not love. That is convenience. And you are not here to be convenient. You are here to be cherished. You are here to be respected. You are here to be loved in a way that does not vanish the moment it requires effort. So the real transformation happens when you stop asking why he always comes back and start asking why you would ever allow him back in. That is the shift that changes everything, because once you raise the standard inside yourself, no one can cross it without your permission. And when you stop granting that permission, the cycle finally ends. You are no longer the same person who once tolerated half commitment. You are the person who demands alignment, and that demand reshapes the entire direction of your life. Yes, it takes courage to stand firm. Yes, it takes strength to resist the pull of old patterns. But every time you do, you grow. Every time you hold the line, you prove to yourself that you are not desperate for what left you. You are destined for what is ahead. And the more you honor that truth, the more the universe responds with people and opportunities that match your energy. Because like attracts like. And when you embody self-love, you attract love that feels like home, not love that feels like survival. So let him come back. Let him knock. Let him try to step once more into a space he no longer has the right to occupy. And instead of opening the door, smile within yourself and recognize the growth it represents. Recognize that you no longer bend, you no longer break, you no longer wait for someone else to decide your value. You are the one who decides now. And that decision is the foundation of a life where love is steady, respect is mutual, and your worth is never questioned again. The moment you realize that love is not measured by who comes back, but by who chooses to stay, your entire perspective shifts. You stop chasing ghosts and start building a reality rooted in truth. You stop waiting for apologies and start demanding consistency. Stop hoping for change in someone else and begin creating transformation within yourself. That shift is where your power lives, because no one can take away the standards you set for your own life. They can leave, they can return, they can beg for another chance, but your boundaries, your self, worth, your truth remain untouchable. What you allow is what continues. If you allow the cycle to repeat, it will. If you allow disrespect to slip through your boundaries, it will. If you allow half-hearted love to sit in the space of your heart, it will. But the second you decide that your peace matters more, the cycle stops. That decision is everything. It is the moment when you no longer wait for someone to prove themselves, but instead you prove to yourself that you deserve more. And once you fully believe that, you cannot go back. Understand this. Love is not supposed to feel like confusion. It is not supposed to feel like chaos. It is not supposed to keep you questioning whether you are enough. Love is clarity. Love is safety. Love is knowing, not guessing. And the love you deserve will never need to leave to realize what it has. The love you deserve will recognize you immediately, honor you consistently, and choose you daily. Anything less than that is not love. It is attachment, it is comfort, it is fear disguised as connection. That is why your strength matters, because strength is what allows you to walk away even when your heart aches. Strength is what allows you to hold your boundary when the temptation to go back feels overwhelming. Strength is what allows you to believe that something better is coming, even when the silence feels loud. And every time you act from strength, you create proof for yourself. Proof that you are not weak, proof that you are not desperate, proof that you are capable of holding out for the love that will never require you to compromise your worth. Do not confuse someone's return with their transformation. True change takes time, consistency, and action, not sudden appearances driven by regret. Anyone can say the right words. Anyone can express temporary longing. But real change is proven through behavior over time, not through a single moment of desperation. If his return is not backed by growth, then it is not a gift. It is a distraction, and you cannot afford to keep being distracted from your destiny. So take this moment as a reminder of who you are becoming. You are no longer someone who waits to be chosen. You are no longer someone who doubts if she is worthy. You are no longer someone who clings to the past and hopes it will magically turn into the future you dream of. You're becoming someone who understands that the love you deserve is steady, is strong, is certain. You're becoming someone who is so grounded in her worth that no return, no apology, no temporary gesture could ever shake the life she is building. And that unshakable version of you is already here, waiting for you to claim her fully. The greatest test of your growth is not how well you love when someone stays, but how powerfully you love yourself when someone leaves. Because when you no longer collapse in their absence, you discover the truth. Your strength was never tied to their presence. Your light was never dependent on their recognition. Your future was never limited by their ability to see your worth. You were always whole. You were always powerful. You were always enough. Their exit only revealed what you needed to remember, that everything you thought you were missing has always been within you. This is why his return should not move you. It is not a blessing, it is a reminder. A reminder of the old version of yourself who once believed you had to fight for love, who once accepted less than she deserved, who once thought being chosen meant being valuable. That version of you no longer exists. You have evolved beyond her. You have risen into someone who knows that love is not a reward for suffering, but a reflection of self-worth. And the higher your worth, the clearer your standards. So when the past knocks on your door, see it for what it is, a test of alignment. Life is asking you whether you are serious about your new standard or if you will slip back into old habits. This is where many break, because temptation feels easier than transformation. But you are not here to repeat the cycle. You are here to end it. And the way you end it is by choosing differently than you did before. You end it by proving to yourself that the love you give to others is finally the love you are ready to give to yourself. There's nothing more magnetic than a person who no longer doubts their own worth. That kind of energy does not chase, it attracts. It does not beg, it commands. It does not settle, it selects. That is the energy you are stepping into. And when you live from that energy, no return from the past can sway you. You recognize it for what it is, an echo of an old story you have already outgrown. You are writing new chapters now, and those chapters are built on self-respect, clarity, and power. Do not let loneliness trick you into going back. Loneliness is not a sign you are empty, it is a sign you are clearing space. Clearing space for better love, clearer connections, deeper alignment. And sometimes the space feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort is temporary. Settling for less, on the other hand, creates a lifetime of regret. Which weight would you rather carry? The temporary ache of waiting or the permanent heaviness of repeating the same cycle? Your heart is too valuable to waste on a love that cannot sustain you. Your energy is too sacred to pour into someone who only shows up when they feel your absence. Your life is too precious to keep waiting for someone else to see what has always been undeniable. You are not meant to be remembered after the fact. You are meant to be cherished in the present. You are not meant to be a fallback option. You are meant to be the only choice. And the moment you embody that truth, you stop questioning why he comes back and start realizing why you never need to. The moment you refuse to step back into the same patterns, you reclaim your power in full. You are no longer at the mercy of someone else's decisions, no longer defined by their absence, no longer chained to the uncertainty of their affection. You become the one who decides, the one who chooses, the one who leads your life with conviction. And in that choice, you feel a freedom deeper than anything the past could ever offer. This freedom is not about cutting someone off. It is about cutting off the belief that you need them to feel complete. Every time you say no to what diminishes you, you say yes to the life you deserve. Every time you walk away from confusion, you walk closer to clarity. Every time you refuse to let someone back in just because they finally recognize your value, you send a message to yourself that your worth is not negotiable. That message becomes your foundation. It becomes the voice you hear in moments of doubt, the strength you carry in moments of weakness, the light that guides you when the past tries to pull you back into darkness. Understand that closure is not something they give you, it is something you give yourself. Waiting for them to apologize, to admit, to acknowledge is only another form of giving them control. But when you create closure within, you no longer need their words, their validation, or their recognition. You decide that your peace is more important than their explanation. You decide that your healing is not dependent on their return. And in that decision, you break free completely. You are not here to prove your worth. You are here to embody it. The moment you stop trying to show someone that you are worthy of staying, you shift your energy from scarcity to abundance. You stop seeing love as something you must earn and start seeing it as something that naturally flows to you when you align with your highest self. This shift is where everything changes. It is where desperation turns into discernment, where fear turns into confidence, where longing turns into presence. It is not your job to convince someone to see your value. It is your job to live in such alignment with your truth that those who cannot honor it naturally fall away. Their departure is not rejection, it is redirection. It is life removing what no longer fits so you can step into what finally does. And once you internalize this, you stop mourning what left and start preparing for what is to come. You stop asking, why didn't they choose me? And start affirming, I choose me. There will always be voices that try to pull you back into the past, but your growth has given you new ears. You no longer hear them with longing, you hear them with clarity. You no longer see them with hope, you see them with understanding. You no longer crave their return, you honor your own evolution. And in that clarity, you find peace deeper than anything fleeting attention could offer. You were never meant to settle for someone who only realized your worth once you were gone. You were meant to rise into the version of yourself who knows she never has to wait to be valued. That is your power. That is your truth. That is your unshakable foundation. And once you stand on it, no return from the past can shake you, because you finally know you are already whole. The power of self-respect reshapes every part of your existence. It builds an inner standard that no external circumstance can lower. It teaches you that walking away is not loss but alignment, not weakness but strength, not abandonment but liberation. When you hold yourself to that standard, you no longer fear who stays or who leaves, because you finally realize the most important presence in your life is your own. You discover that solitude is not emptiness but sacred space, where your spirit expands without interference, where your voice grows louder without suppression, where your worth shines without negotiation. Every moment you choose yourself, you dismantle the lies of unworthiness that were planted by inconsistency, neglect, or rejection. Those lies lose their grip the instant you decide you are no longer available for half love, for delayed recognition, for fragments of attention disguised as care. Your heart learns that it deserves the fullness of commitment, the steadiness of loyalty, and the clarity of intention. Anything less becomes noise you no longer allow into your frequency. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the radical act of standing tall in a world that profits from your doubt, a world that thrives when you forget who you are. By choosing yourself, you disrupt the cycle. You remind yourself that love is not meant to deplete, it is meant to nourish. Respect is not meant to be begged for, it is meant to be mutual. Presence is not meant to be conditional, it is meant to be steady. And when these truths take root in you, everything that falls short of them becomes unappealing, unworthy of your energy, incapable of distracting you from the clarity you have claimed. Healing does not mean the past never tries to return. It means when it does, you meet it with strength instead of longing. You no longer chase what abandoned you. You no longer romanticize what broke you. You no longer confuse temporary attention with lasting love. Instead, you recognize patterns for what they are, and you rise above them with grace. The same situations that once trapped you now reveal your evolution. The same voices that once swayed you now lose their power. The same wounds that once defined you now stand as proof of your resilience. True freedom comes when you stop fearing loss. Because what can you lose if you already refuse to betray yourself again? What can be taken from you if your sense of worth is no longer dependent on someone else's presence? What power can the past hold if you no longer give it permission to define your future? This is the strength that transforms longing into liberation. It is the kind of strength that cannot be shaken by apologies that come too late, or gestures that fall short, or returns that carry no real change. You see them for what they are, distractions from the path you've already outgrown. Your life does not wait for someone else to value you. It expands the moment you decide you will no longer shrink. It flourishes the moment you refuse to lower your standards. It elevates the moment you commit to protecting your peace above all else. And in that choice, you create a new reality, one where you are no longer bound to the uncertainty of others, but anchored in the certainty of yourself. Nothing is more powerful than a soul that finally chooses to rise, and nothing is more unstoppable than the person who knows they are already enough. The moment you fully embrace the truth that you are already whole, your life begins to shift in ways that feel almost unshakable. You stop searching for pieces of yourself in places that were never capable of giving them. You stop tying your value to someone else's recognition, because you finally understand that worth is not something granted. It is something you declare. And when you declare it, the world around you must adjust. The dynamics that once drained you begin to collapse. The cycles that once trapped you begin to dissolve. And the people who cannot honor your light naturally fall away. What remains is clarity, and with clarity comes power. There is nothing more powerful than the decision to stop betraying yourself. Every compromise you refuse to question, every silence you accepted, every moment you settled becomes a reminder of the weight you carried without realizing how heavy it was. But now, the heaviness lifts, not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you refuse to carry what no longer belongs to you. The opinions, the judgments, the expectations, all of them lose their grip. You are no longer held hostage by the need to be understood or validated. You are free because you finally stand rooted in yourself. This strength is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It is quiet, steady, and unshakable. It shows in the way you no longer argue with those determined to misunderstand you. It shows in the way you no longer chase after connections that leave you empty. It shows in the way you walk away without explanation, because your energy is too sacred to be wasted on convincing anyone of your worth. The world may call it distance, but it is actually alignment. It is the highest form of self-respect, the clearest form of love you can give yourself. You begin to realize that the peace you protect is worth more than the closeness you force. You recognize that silence can be healing, that solitude can be empowering, and that presence, when authentic, is far more valuable than company that exists only in form, not in spirit. And with that recognition comes liberation. You no longer fear empty spaces because they are no longer empty. They are filled with your growth, your clarity, your strength. You see that nothing real can be lost because what is real is rooted in truth, and truth cannot be taken. Every time you choose yourself, you are not rejecting others. You are rejecting the versions of yourself that once believed you had to beg to be seen. You are rejecting the belief that love must hurt, that attention must be earned, that worth must be proven. You are rewriting the script that told you to shrink, to settle, to stay silent. And in doing so, you reclaim the power that was always yours. The path forward is no longer about holding on. It is about rising. It is about refusing to let the wounds of the past dictate the rhythm of your future. It is about stepping into each day with a spirit unburdened by doubt and a heart unchained from fear. You are not here to be defined by what you lost. You are here to expand into what you are becoming. And what you are becoming is unstoppable, undeniable, and unshakably free. The fire within you is no longer something you hide, suppress, or dim for the comfort of others. It is not arrogance. It is not pride. It is the undeniable radiance of someone who has finally remembered their own strength. You understand now that humility is not shrinking. It is standing tall without apology. It is allowing your light to exist in its fullness without needing to dim it for those who fear their own reflection in it. The more you embrace that light, the more you recognize that it was never your duty to carry those who refuse to rise with you. The world may try to convince you that you are asking for too much, but what you are truly doing is refusing to accept too little. You no longer settle for half love, for half truths, for half efforts. You are no longer available for situations that drain you more than they nourish you. This is not selfishness, it is clarity. It is knowing that your life has value, that your energy has meaning, that your time is sacred. And when you embody that, everything around you begins to reflect it. The conversations you attract deepen, the opportunities align, and the connections that enter your space resonate at the same frequency of truth you now stand in. There will be moments where the old patterns call back, where the familiar pull of doubt and fear whispers to return to comfort. But you will feel in your soul that comfort without growth is just another form of confinement. You will feel that to go back would be to abandon yourself all over again, and that is something you can no longer do. The cost is too high, the weight too heavy, the silence too loud. And so you keep walking forward, not because the path is free of challenge, but because the path is now aligned with your truth. Every challenge becomes fuel. Every obstacle transforms into proof of your strength. Every doubt becomes another opportunity to choose faith over fear. You no longer view difficulties as punishments, but as invitations. Opportunities to refine, to sharpen, to rise higher. You recognize that pressure does not destroy diamonds, it reveals them. And in the same way, pressure is revealing you. It is showing you just how unbreakable you are, just how unstoppable you have always been. The more you rise, the more you realize that true power was never about control over others, it was about mastery of yourself. It is in the discipline to choose peace over chaos, love over resentment, courage over hesitation. It is in the resilience that refuses to be defined by wounds and instead chooses to transform them into wisdom. It is in the strength to love deeply without losing yourself, to give freely without emptying yourself, to stand firm without hardening your heart. You are no longer chasing life. You are embodying it. You are no longer asking for permission. You are granting it to yourself. You are no longer waiting for someone to save you. You are living as your own salvation. And in that state, nothing can overpower you, because nothing outside of you has more authority than the truth within you. This is the point where fear loses its grip. This is the point where limitation shatters. This is the point where you rise into the fullness of who you are meant to be. And from this place, the only direction left is forward, the only possibility is expansion, and the only outcome is freedom.